Good evening, everyone. I'm Mayor Lawrence Real, and I'm calling the meeting of Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, our regular meeting to order. The time is approximately 6 o'clock. The meeting is being streamed on the village website. The public can also participate via Zoom. Instructions and overall public participation guidance is listed on the website and on page 4 of the meeting packet. I'll defer to our clerk to give additional information.
Thank you, Mayor. The Village of Los Ranchos is providing the ability for the public to participate in hybrid meetings. As with any application, digital service, or software, the opportunity for failure can occur. Therefore, the village is not responsible for the inability to connect to the meeting either by Zoom, the Zoom meeting link, or viewing via live stream. The meeting video and audio are recorded and will be posted on the village website after the meeting.
And I would just remind the public and others who might be listening in, with these windstorms that we're having today, the likelihood of having some issues might be present. So please bear with us as we move through the meeting. So Danielle, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mayor. Trustee Benavides?
Here.
Trustee Kiefer? Here. Trustee Ranovich?
Here.
Trustee Reinell?
Here.
We have a quorum. Can we all get approval of, let's go back and the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We need a motion for approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for the approval of the agenda.
It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I'll move forward. We'll now move to general public comment. Only those participants who signed up prior to the meeting can speak on topics that do not appear on the agenda under public comment, and will be given, each speaker will be given 3 minutes. To be fair to others waiting to speak, a timekeeper will make an announcement when the allotted time is up. Therefore, it is important to keep your comments short, and please plan on making your points as quickly as possible. No action can occur on these items. If you have questions, please feel free to contact staff during regular business hours. Danielle, please proceed on calling up the individuals that have signed up for general public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and trustees, our first individual is Ms. Carrie Peel. If you would, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
All right, my name's Carrie Peel. I live at 616 Bledsoe Road Northwest, and I'm here today to do a little community engagement, and I have an event to tell you about. So I'd like this side of the room, right here, you guys, when I point at you, I want you to say the word yard. Let's practice.
Yard.
Okay, let's do it a little louder. Ready?
Yard.
Okay, all together.
Yard.
There you go, perfect. Now when I point to this section of the room, I want you to say sail. Are you ready? Let's practice. Sail. Oh, they did great. Ready? Okay, is everyone ready to do this? All right.
Yard.
Sail.
Yard. Sail. Yard. Sail. Yard sale.
Well, great. It sounds like everyone's super pumped for our next community yard sale. That's awesome. It's going to be on Sunday, April 27th from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. in the Alfredo Garcia barn. If you would like to register for a table, it's $25. We already have 16 tables registered, so make sure if you want to do it that you or tell a friend or a neighbor, somebody else that wants to register, to go ahead and get ready to do that. Costs $25 for the table, and it's of course free to attend. So it was a lot of fun last fall, and we're gonna do it again. I'm gonna leave this flyer out here in, is there like a bulletin board I could stick it on or something? I don't know. I'll leave this out here if that's allowed, and then you'll see these throughout the village as well in lots of different business windows, and it has the information about how to register. It's just like a long website that I'm not gonna read out loud. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vincent Sanchez, please state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Vincent Sanchez. I live at 6802 Rio Grande. And I was just told something that kind of takes a little bit of the wind out of what I came up here to speak about today. So I think I'll just jump to the next part, which is in my recent dealing with the village and planning and zoning and in this, I believe there are moments in which the public doesn't necessarily feel like they can engage in discussion with the governance. And that is within the meetings. And I believe that there may be an amount of time that could be allotted to help that conversation, not necessarily do anything other than to discuss issues in a timely fashion, might be really beneficial to both instances. Sometimes there isn't enough in between decision and public statement, because when you are presented with the public display of particular instances, sometimes that's the first time that you've been introduced to that particular thing, and you just need a little bit of clarification for something. So that is where I will conclude. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eligio Padilla, if you would please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
My name's Eligio Padilla. I live at 315 Nuevo Hacienda Lane Northwest. I was born in Alameda, living in Los Ranchos. Went to Valley High School, graduating class in 1965. And I'm here to have a request considered for funding or contributing to a fund called the VHS Veterans Memorial and Scholarship Fund. We were incorporated about 3 years ago. We've got 2 scholarships offered already, and we'll be presenting our 3rd. My goal for the rest of my life is to raise money for that scholarship fund. And I think I shared that information with the entire board. I hope you had a chance to look at it. And I hope you'll give it some serious consideration. I got to be an old man. Now, being an old man is not easy, but I got to be an old man. The 12 young men that we're honoring never got a chance to have a career, have a family, and so on. I don't want their sacrifice to ever be forgotten. The second request is to seek funding for a statue honoring one of those 12 young men. His name is Freddy Herrera. Grew up here at the corner of Chavez and Rio Grande. He graduated from high school in 1968. Less than a year later, he was MIA. And I'm hoping that the board will consider supporting that effort. I've talked with Ms. Rinaldi, and I asked her where might it be possible to do this, and she said possibly at the 4th Street and what is that, right by the freeway, at Pueblo. Anyhow, that's what I'm here to do, and hopefully I can get some support not only from the board but from the people that are here. Let's not let their sacrifices ever be forgotten. We'll be having a ceremony, an early Memorial Day ceremony on the 17th of May. A lot of my classmates will be coming from different parts of the country. They had not seen the memorial. Hopefully we'll have some people from Los Ranchos joining us. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Padilla. We did get the information to the trustees, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ms. Gordine McKenzie. It looks like they're entering now, so Darnell, would you mind taking the mic over to Ms. Camille Vados while the other 2 enter? Yes, but let's defer the mic to Ms. Vados real quick.
Did I sign up for, I thought I signed up for P&Z, but I'll just decline.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Gordine McKenzie, if you would please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes.
Gordine McKenzie, 7315 Guadalupe Trail. I wanted to just make a comment, certainly with things that are happening in our legislature and other places in terms of creating more housing. I think it's important that we look at our historical landmarks here in Los Ranchos. And I speak as a co-founder and the current president of the Los Ranchos Historical Society. And there are many structures, and there is also land that has historical value. Some of them have plaques, some of them don't, but there are certainly pieces of property and land that qualify for state recognition, but also for the national registry. And one of the things that we are hoping to do is look at those pieces of property and those other landmarks that have historical significance in our village, so we can think about where it is and make sure that we're not overturning structures that have historical value. So I just wanted to speak to the record and keep that in mind. Property's age has to be at least 50 years old and resemble the way it looked in the past. And that could also be through renovation as well, that a lot of people do. And it can be associated with events or activities that have, or developments that were important in the past. And that includes the people that live there. And some of the questions that they ask for the National Registry: does the property contain significant architectural history? Does the landscape contain certain history? Are there engineering achievements, archaeological information, or other things? And I would just like to see us work on that as a village and respect those historical landmarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Nancy Nangeroni, if you would, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Nancy Nangeroni, 7315 Guadalupe Trail. I'm not going to speak very long. I just wanted to, for those of you who weren't able to be there, just to point out that the History Society, the Los Ranchos Historical Society, held a very well-attended presentation about Rodolfo Anaya, which I learned a lot at, and a tremendous amount of work went into it. It was at the Rodolfo Anaya Library on Saturday, and it was a full house. And so I just want to credit the hard work that people put into that event. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor and trustees, with that, it concludes public comment.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Let's move on to item number 6, approval of the February 18th, 2025 meeting. Do we have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Now we'll move on to new business. Item A, Resolution 2025-03-01. A resolution amending a policy for the use of village facilities and property for events and special events. We'll turn it over to Administrator Mr. Avila, and I think Mr. Radostovich may be here to support in any way possible. So, John?
Hello, Mayor, Board of Trustees. The facilities rental policy had come up a couple of times as needing to be addressed. One, just to see where it paced with market, and two, to make sure that we are, making the process as efficient as possible. And so we've pared it down as far as, how to apply for facilities. I won't get too much into that, but also looked at market as far as the rentals and brought the proposed amounts up to market. And by that, what I'm doing is comparing it to an hourly rate in a couple of nearby entities. We go ahead and rent out for 8 hours, a whole day. So you're comparing there basically is 8 hours times what these other entities would charge to get to some of these amounts here. So if you had an 8-hour day at $50, that would be $400, but we are happening to, rent at $375, for instance, in the Alfredo Garcia Community Barn for village residents. So I bring you these updates for consideration and resolution so we can proceed in renting out the facilities. We have held off, excuse me, because of weather, but that'll change here with April. So we want to get these in place in time.
Thank you, Mr. Avila. Any questions of the administrator?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Mayor, let's go into motion first.
Do we have a motion to approve the proposed resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, open for discussion. Go ahead, George.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have any problem with this. I'm assuming that you did some research to kind of figure out what these rates, how they compare to other places. Some of these places, I don't even know where they are. And so I didn't know we rented them, and a couple I had some concerns about just from what I heard. I've not been in the old Village Hall. Is it safe to rent? Is it up to code, I guess is a better way to put it? And I just don't know the answer, John.
Old Village Hall is used by the Boy Scouts exclusively. And at this point, they're in there with an MOU for use versus services they provide.
I see. Another one, I wasn't sure which one it is, and it's not numbered, so it's. I don't know what the difference is between parking lots like the tennis courts, which are also the. Could you give a little rundown of what all of these are? Because, for instance, the community gardens, I didn't even know what that was, much less. So I'm in favor of increasing the cost because it hasn't been increased the entire time I've been a trustee. I just don't know what these are, some of them. So maybe if you could give us a little bit of history or some kind of geography about some of the line items here.
Okay, so if I could address those ones that might be a little strange. Community gardens is actually a garden plot that the community can sign up for. And there's 30 plus plots that at the Ag Nature Center have been signed up for. This covers water, and the actual plot has been fertilized, and some of them had winter planting to set some nitrogen that happens with that. So it was prepared, ready, and people can just go ahead and get started growing, and many have.
That makes sense. The parking lot only, which is just below Alfredo Garcia Community Barn, that's the gravel parking lot that was just treed, I'll call it, last year? Is that right?
It's yes, the parking lot outside of the barn.
And do people actually rent just the parking lot? Is that for sports for their kids or something like that?
What we've seen is associations, like a realtor association, has done that to get to get people together. Then they use the park which is not rented, it's just first come, first serve. That is one that I recall.
Interesting. And then the other one I wondered about is the stalls. It just says stalls in fields by acres. I wasn't sure what that was.
So the open space area, which used to be called Miller's Feed, which used to be called La Conga Bar, which, you know, has some history there, and that bears, you know, what was mentioned before, some consideration as to the history there. That barn in the back has stalls in there, horse stalls. So rather than calling it Barn 3, since we have Alfredo Barn, we also have the wine warehouse down at the Ag Center, decided to name that the stalls, just to differentiate.
And people actually do rent it?
Not as of yet.
Oh.
But it is the opportunity to grow that.
I see. And then the other one I was going to ask about is like parking lot A and B. I can't tell if that's under, I guess it's under the Larry P. Abraham Agri-Nature Center. Is that right?
Mr. Mayor, Board of Trustees, Trustee Radovich, correct.
Okay. I don't have any problem with it in terms of the raised rates. I just didn't know what some of these things were. One thing I was going to mention that came from a few constituents last year is that people do know that there is a pool at the Anderson House, and some people have suggested that we could get that pool going and use it for residents. I know it's a residential pool, but there may be ways to improve it to allow people to use it as a swimming pool in the future. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as an idea for the trustees to consider and the mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Trustee Ramirez?
To pick up on where you left off, George, in regards to the Anderson House, I had a similar thought. And I know we're not ready to do anything like that, and perhaps we should never rent that house out. But there is a pool, and there's a pool house that goes with it. Now, and I think right now you're just trying to come up with placeholders, right? Even if you're not ready to do anything about it. But that might be a good placeholder. It's that pool house, if you know what I mean, right? Yeah. So that's one comment I would have. The other comment has to do with the parking lot in front of the barn and in front of the tennis courts. I don't have any problems with the rates that you have on this spreadsheet. But my point is about the growers market. I think there are some activities that we have that benefit the community as a whole. And I assume we're not charging the growers market or I guess there's also an art market, I think, that follows that as well. So is that the case? We're not charging those groups?
Excuse me, Trustee Benavides, we have a MOU with the growers market and the art market, so that, and I can't recall what the amount is, but if there is an amount, it's very small, to have their weekly markets there. And so it's de minimis if charged anything.
Yeah, I mean, so the exceptions to this table might be events that benefit the community at large, right?
I would say, and just making this statement so that it's formal, is that village programs don't fall under the anti-donation restrictions. So as we coordinate with those so that we make it a village program, it doesn't have that rub.
Okay. That's the only comment that I have.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have no questions. I just wanted to make a comment that, thank you for doing this. I know this was something that we had been talking about. And I do like the language that talks about anything that's related to a village activity, what I want to make sure we're very clear on is to the entities that are currently under MOUs, how to get those updated, to ensure that there's no confusion of information where we start losing participants under the assumption that all of a sudden this goes into effect and they're gonna have to start paying, and how we make those village activities so that it's a seamless transition.
Thank you, Trustee Kiefer. Any other? All right. That being said, any additional discussion? Hearing none, then we'll move to a vote. Danielle, call the roll.
Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Ranovich?
Yes.
Trustee Reinal?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much. Now we'll move to item 7B, resolution number 2025-03-02. A resolution amending the existing moratorium within the Village Center VC zone. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve 2025-03-02.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. We'll now go into discussion. I believe, John, do we have Mr. Brennan on the Zoom, or is he
I
available?
believe so. See if he's,
Mr. Mayor, trustees, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. My name is Brennan Williams. I'm the Planning and Zoning Consultant Support Staff here tonight to talk about this particular matter. Just very briefly, the Planning and Zoning Department receives inquiries about the moratorium specific to certain permitting allowances roughly every 7 to 10 days. The majority of these requests are what I would consider to be routine development proposals. Someone proposing a sign or placement of a wall or a fence, or most commonly, interior remodels. You've got an existing shell space where the tenant is seeking to make some sort of interior improvement to the building space. The former director made a determination that interior remodels were excluded from the limitations of the moratorium. The current preference is that this be memorialized within the resolution. And so before you tonight is a proposal to amend the current moratorium. The moratorium period remains as is through the end of June. And these allowances would be specific to commercial projects outlined under item number 5 of the resolution. Those are, as I mentioned, interior remodeling projects, so no additional square footage. It would be everything inside the building. Secondly, permit requests for signs or walls and fences. And then lastly, a one-time building addition during the moratorium period that would propose to increase the square footage by no more than 25% of the existing floor area. With that, I'll stand for questions.
Okay, before we go to questions, Danielle, do we have any speakers signed up?
Mayor, we do not.
Okay, we'll then go to the trustees for any questions related to this resolution. Trustee Benavides?
Yes, I mean, so when I first saw this, it left me scratching my head. It's like, okay, what's driving this? Because, I'm aware that we had a moratorium and people are working on a revision. And I think it's also stated here that that is scheduled to be done June 30th. And perhaps it needs to get postponed, who knows? But, okay, so thank you for your explanation. It's basically where after scratching my head, I came to the conclusion of what you were saying. There are some people that are already established that want to do some minor things, and the moratorium is holding them up. And so I get the argument about making interior changes to the building. But one thing that I got a little bit hung up on was the exceptions, okay? And I don't think there was any intent to do scope creep on this, if I can put it in those terms. So I'm looking at 5C. So the exception is one-time building additions of no more than 25% of the existing floor area. Well, I think everyone is keenly aware that we don't want the 25% to be a three-story 25%, right? It doesn't say that in this resolution. So I'm hoping that sort of thing doesn't happen. And you know, and instead we wait for the final outcome of the VC revision. Do you have any comments on that, Brennan? Do you think this resolution excludes somebody from doing a 25% three-story building?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Benavides, thank you for the question. The general response or my answer would be yes, it would exclude something of that nature. The timeline that would be necessary to propose something like that, to me, would be much longer than either the current moratorium or even an extension, should that be, of the existing moratorium, should that be deemed necessary or wanted come the end of July. This is really built specific to property owners that in the VC zone that are not within the project area, because remember, the properties within the project area are exempt from the resolution, or not affected by the resolution. But this proposal is focused on folks that would be interested in establishing either additional square footage, so they want to build an additional suite of limited size, or something of the nature of an outbuilding. We've received a couple of requests for property owners that are zoned VC that are affected by the moratorium, who are trying to put in a storage building of some sort, or an accessory structure like a pergola or a shade structure, and they're unable to do so because of the current limitations. The 25% figure was just something that we kind of determined would be sufficient. That certainly could be adjusted if the board is uncomfortable with that. But again, to answer your question, I don't foresee three-story additions being proposed under the exceptions that are outlined currently.
And Brennan, just if I might, on that point, given the boundaries of the VC zone, when you look at the existing structures, and that's I think the important language of the resolution, the existing floor area of the buildings that they're remodeling, it's highly unlikely you're gonna get a lot of additions to, a significant addition to a building. Let's just take, for example, the Walgreens. If the Walgreens was going to expand by 25%, that's probably one of the bigger buildings that's in the zone. Most of the others are fairly small, and the difference may not be that significant for most of the zone area. And we're only talking here in the next, 4 months, 5 months before hopefully we have a VC zone, if you will, before us. Yeah. So anyway, I would just also mention to the trustees that if there's existing businesses that want to open up and provide services to the residents of our village, et cetera, and create additional gross receipts tax and help our main street, I think we had to find ways to encourage that to occur, with the idea that obviously the VC zone is important, and we've got to make sure we do that well. But I don't think that this has that huge of an impact from that perspective, but it does have an impact on our budget down the road as it relates to revenues for the community. Oh, that's my thoughts. Any other questions? Trustee Kiefer?
Thank you, Brennan. So I guess I completely agree. You know, these are our businesses and we need to take care of them, especially because they are our revenue. I had the same initial concern as Trustee Benavides of, well, what does this mean? And not even so much from a 3-story, right? I'm just thinking even just from a height standpoint, because of that height limit in the VC zone at this point, and how it has gotten extended even from a 2nd story, and then, you know, that pitch that's allowed in the VC zone to make it even higher. Because we also want to be respectful of houses that may be close to the area, because I know a lot of the houses that face the project area lost their mountain views, even though they sit further away because of the size of the buildings. So my question is, and kind of with your information, what you're getting, and these are mostly accessory buildings and things of that sort, would it be unreasonable to limit it to single story at this point?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Kiefer, the short answer would be no. I completely understand where the trustees or the board's coming from. And I will tell you that to my recollection, all of the inquiries that we have received, at least as it pertains to additional square footage, have been an existing single-story building where they were simply proposing a small addition to the existing building or an outbuilding or an accessory building. So all of that would have been, no taller, no higher than 17 feet in height. Also, just for the board's edification, anything over a single story, whether it's an outbuilding or it's an addition to an existing building, is going to require significant engineering and detailed architectural work that would go into that. So, and that of course takes a lot of time to put together. But Trustee Kiefer, no, to answer your question, that seems absolutely reasonable if the board chose to amend the proposal and limit it to single story in height. I think from a functional standpoint, that would meet all of, or at least the vast majority of the inquiries from property owners that the department has received.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just had a couple questions, Mayor.
Trustee Ratnavich.
Thank you. I noticed under let it therefore be resolved number 2, that the Planning and Zoning Department is also authorized to consult with professional consultants. Would that be people like structural engineers based on what you just said about additions to buildings, or MEP, mechanical electrical engineers, or people like that? Is that what you're thinking by that that line?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Radnovich, we certainly could interpret that way, or we could implement that. Again, this proposal, this modification or amendment to the existing resolution, moratorium, was simply based on kind of the department's perception of the more routine projects that were coming through, and also trying to take into account the intent of the moratorium and allow people to not only respect the intent of the moratorium, but to also allow them from a business standpoint, from a commercial standpoint, to meet the needs of their business and their customers.
That makes sense. Thank you, Brennan. I also had a question about one of the inquiries was about setbacks. Letter D under the primary areas of inquiry are. They would still, if something like that were to occur and someone were to add to a building, an existing building, they would still have to follow existing setback requirements that are in place for that zone or that type of building land use, correct?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Ranovich, that's correct. That portion of the moratorium that's before you tonight is language that was copied from the current or the existing moratorium, giving direction to the villages, to the Planning and Zoning Department as to what items or issues we're supposed to be focused on.
I see.
But the short answer is yes, sir. Setbacks would still need to be maintained. We do have a group that is working through the possible amendments to the VC zone. But to your point, what's from a setback standpoint, what's in effect now would pertain to any project that would come forward should this amendment to the moratorium be approved by the trustees.
Thanks. And another question related is the ad hoc committee, or I don't know what we're calling it at this point, but the VC committee, they're aware of this this change in the way we're regulating how people can build out the VC in the VC zone?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Ranovich, that's my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, and I would share what the other trustees said about the permit request for 25% building area, especially considering height. So that's all of, let me make sure, I think that's all of my questions. Yeah, that's all the questions I had. Thanks, Brennan.
Brennan, I just had just a couple of questions. One is that if someone is coming in, let's say in order to to put in a fence or put in a sign, to follow up with what Trustee Radnovich just indicated, that they follow certainly the existing ordinances that are already in place for signs, fences, et cetera. Would they then have to come before P&Z in order to get final approval? Or is that something that would be done directly by the department?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Reinow, the latter. So this would allow the department to more quickly and more efficiently address inquiries and or permit requests that come through the department to get people provided they meet the requirements, the approval that they're looking for. The general intent of this request to modify the existing moratorium will eliminate the department having to take additional time to talk about, to try and figure out, does this proposal, can we approve this fence request, or is it affected by the moratorium? Well, the moratorium says one thing, but the former director said something else. If we're able to just get clear direction on what, again, routine, kind of everyday, my word, requests that come through, if we can get some direction from the trustees as to how to process those, whether it's yes, process them, or no, don't, that would greatly help us in our function of processing permit requests, which come in every day, not always in the VC zone. But part of our job is to get permit requests in, analyze them, and then get them out the door as quickly as possible so people can, so property owners can, could complete their project.
But so certainly though, in the event if a particular project was not approved, then that would then flow through to P&Z in order to have a hearing on it. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Reiner, provided that the code allows for that. So in a nutshell, any decision that's made by the planning director can be appealed. There are different processes associated with that. So for example, if somebody needed a variance, to your point, sir, yes, that would go before planning and zoning. This amendment or this proposal would simply clarify that certain types of projects, as they're listed or enumerated there, would not be affected by the moratorium, meaning staff could process them.
And just lastly, I mean, I would certainly go along with my fellow trustees in terms of the exceptions rule that we have in place, and suggest that that part of this proposal be modified.
Thank you, Trustee Renal. Let me ask Mr. Brennan, can you do me a favor and look at item C on the resolution? Would that be an appropriate place, and our attorney can chime in as well, to insert that the issue associated with the height limitation, maybe something to the effect that, and limited only to 1 story, if you will? I'm not probably using quite planning language as you all would use, but that would be, I think, what all of the trustees here seem to be, and I'm fine with that as well. So could you suggest some language there?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I believe your tenure in government through osmosis has given you the proper vernacular or planning language. So yes, I mean, we could add something along the lines of one-time building addition, one-time single-story building additions of no more than 25% of the existing floor area, if that pleases the board.
Sure. Mayor, I have one more question that came to mind.
Trustee Ratnovich.
Thank you. Brennan, none of the bigger, I was looking at the plan, or at least the zone map for the area, and there are some bigger developments like the shopping center right at the corner that the Walgreens is part of. There's also the Auto Works place. It's a boating place next to it. None of those are any of the ones that have come in, are they?
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Radnovich, I don't believe so. I'm not the only one that takes inquiries about these properties. Generally, we're pretty good about sharing information or talking about, you know, who's made a particular request, but it doesn't sound familiar. I don't recall that if they have.
Yeah, I would hate to see something like the shopping center at the northwest corner all of a sudden start adding 25% to it. I think we'd get some inquiries from citizens, and that's my fear of the larger property owners.
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Radnovich, absolutely understood. None of the requests that I recall have been anything of that nature. Again, it's generally things like a sign permit, or even I remember a particular situation many months ago where someone was looking to get a permit to install an irrigation system for their landscape. It was a commercial property for their landscaping. And again, the discussion was, do we let them proceed based on the way the ordinance is written? That constitutes development. Are they entitled to a permit? Do we let them go through the process, or do we require them to put everything on pause until the moratorium expires? And so again, this proposal, the intent of this is simply to allow those simple projects to be able to move forward while recognizing and understanding the intent of the original moratorium.
Thank you, Brendan.
Trustee Renal.
I just had one further question. If we're looking at a building addition of no more than 25%, even 1 story, that then would cover an outbuilding? Or do we need separate language in there in order to ensure that the outbuilding is also covered? That's also 25%. You know, and so you're talking about the entire lot, basically. What's ever on the lot of a 25% increase.
Mr. Mayor, Trustee Reinau, the term addition would cover both construction to an attached building as well as a standalone separate outbuilding. That terminology, you know, again, the term addition would cover both of those examples.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion with that? We need a formal amendment to the,
You gave us one, right?
right, I think we just want to make sure we memorialize it as part of the conversation, so. Trustee Kiefer?
Mayor, I'll make a amendment to my original motion for item 5C, saying one-time, single-story building additions of no more than 25% of the existing floor area.
That is the motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any other questions on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Okay, now we move on to passing final action on the
Mayor.
resolution.
I'm sorry for the interruption. On a resolution, we do need to go through a roll call vote.
That's what we're about to do.
Okay.
All right. So with that being said, we'll call the roll on the resolution as amended.
Thank you. My apologies. Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Ranovich?
Yes.
Trustee Rydell?
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, we'll now move on to our next matter before us. Let me make sure I am on the right page here with my friends. All right, resolution number 7, resolution 2025-03-03. A resolution requesting a budget adjustment request recommending budget revisions related to General Fund 101 for the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque. And we have Tammy, I believe, is on to explain the resolution. Good evening, Tammy.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, trustees. Yes, before you is Resolution 2025-03-03. And this budget adjustment is in relation to the general fund. There are 5 line items that this affects. And so what this budget adjustment is doing is we are transferring money between line items in the general fund to allow us to use these funds in a different capacity than we originally budgeted. So we are decreasing the IGA fire protection and EMS line item by $200,000. And we are decreasing the capital roadways, bridges, and culverts line item by $100,000. And then we are increasing 3 line items, the maintenance, grounds, and roadways by $190,000, professional services by $40,000, and the attorney's fees and settlements line item by $70,000. And we are requesting these adjustments so that we can do some maintenance around before the end of the fiscal year, and so that we can also cover some additional attorney's fees and professional services costs that have occurred during the fiscal year 25 operations to date.
Thank you, Tammy. I forgot to request that we have a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve 2025-03-03.
Do we have a second?
Second, to approve resolution 2025-03-03.
Any additional discussion as it relates to the adjustments? Seeing none, Danielle, to call the roll, please.
Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Ranovich?
Yes.
Trustee Rydell?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you very much. Move to item number 7, a resolution number 2025-03-04. A resolution approving the disposition of obsolete, worn out, unusable, tangible property. Again, we'll go to Mr. Avila for an explanation.
Mayor, Board of Trustees, this resolution is required to declare these properties that we have, which are vehicles and pieces of equipment, surplus, so that we can remove them from our inventory, place them for sale.
We need a motion for approval on this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution, just a second, just getting there. Sorry.
-03-04.
-03-04, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Do we have a second?
I'll
Second, yeah, okay.
All right, well, a second. Any additional discussion on this resolution? Seeing no discussion?
How much you want for the golf cart?
We'll go to
I like the
the,
truck also.
we'll go to the roll call. Danielle?
Trustee Benavides?
Yes.
Trustee Kiefer?
Yes.
Trustee Ranovich?
Yes.
Trustee Raynow?
Yes,
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, now in 7.E, ordinance number 301, a request to advertise an ordinance for adopting a franchise agreement with Easy Fiber Texas LLC. Before we move forward, we'll go to our attorney for a brief explanation on this issue.
Mayor and the Board of Trustees, this is a franchise agreement which has been worked on for a number of months, and the franchise company has two representatives here to present what it's about. But it's for Easy Fiber, which is a company that installs fiber optics. It does not do cables and systems. It does not do programming, but only gives access. In looking at this, it had been a while since I had done one of these in the absence of my gap at the village. We looked at I looked at a number of examples in Rio Rancho, the city of Albuquerque, the city of Santa Fe, as to what was typically included in the franchise agreements these days. This one comes closest to the one that was just adopted for this company in the city of Rio Rancho. And from my review, it has those things that the villages and the municipalities typically require in terms of control, compliance with all of the ordinances of the village for construction. It has a participation or a franchise fee based upon gross receipts. Easy Fiber was somewhat flexible, and we renegotiated the gross revenues, gross receipts section, so it doesn't have all of the deductions even that city of Rio Rancho has. So I think that it's something that was thought by Mr. Avila and others, that to provide additional internet service, high-speed internet to the village residents and to businesses was something that would be advisable and something that would be welcomed here. So I think from there, just in terms of what they do, how they do it, the time frame for doing it, I know it's in 3 phases. I think it would be appropriate to hear from the representatives of Easy Fiber. I know that Garner Duncan is here and the local head of this company, so perhaps they should present that to the board.
Thank you. Let me first indicate to the trustees, as we might remember, this requires 2 hearings. Tonight is simply a motion to approve advertising the actual franchise and then having a final approval of the franchise at our upcoming meeting in April. So before we move forward.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, I agree that tonight is the approval for publication.
Right.
The next meeting that is typical is the approval or disapproval based after the publication. What is different about a franchise is that the approval, if you approve it after it is published and advertised properly, cannot be effective for another period of 30 days. And during that 30 days, if 20% of the electorate from the village protests this, then it could be forced to a public referendum if you wanted to continue. So as there's that one tail end of approving franchises that is not tied to just approving other kinds of zoning and that kind of thing. It would apply in the same way if you were selling real property above 25,000, that kind of thing. It's the same process.
Thank you. Bill, let me.
Did you say the I'm sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
The electorate?
Yes, registered voters, 20% of the registered voters of the village, if they file a proper protest, and there's 20% does it, then it could push it to a public referendum.
Sorry for speaking out of turn, Mayor.
Oh, don't worry about it, Trustee Ranovich. First, we need a motion to approve the publication as a bill in suspension of the ordinance.
Excuse me, point of order. I think the information gathering should take place before the motion.
Would you, okay.
Yeah, so probably the franchisee should make their presentation, and you can ask questions and get the information you need in that, and then make a motion, whichever way.
So then we hear from the company then, Bill?
Mayor, before the company comes up, can I just ask a quick question, Mr. Chappell, just for my own understanding? Because I know you explained franchises are different. How is a franchisee selected? So like, how is this fiber company selected to present to us versus other fiber companies that may be out there?
Mayor and Trustee Kiefer, this is typically done, and we have another one that has come. They're done because they solicit the village to do this. In this particular case, it's because they also are already doing this process in the city of Albuquerque and in the village of Rio Rancho, so it's an infill. But it is a non-exclusive franchise. So another company could come in and do the same thing. This is not like a cable TV franchise where it becomes exclusive for various areas and so forth. So it's a non-exclusive, so they solicit the village, and if the proposal seems right, then it moves forward. And there is at least one other that has contacted us, but that one has not moved forward.
Thank you, I learned something new. Appreciate it.
Mayor, I had a similar question, if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
Before they give us their spiel. Are there already franchisees with fiber optics lines in the village?
Mayor and Trustee Radnovich, someone but me would be more qualified to do that because they've been in the village. I'm sure that Comcast has a franchise of some sort, I don't know. When I was here, we did one with Zaya's, a company that I don't think ever completed or ever performed anything outside of it. Their primary goal was to service the public schools. So I'm sure that there are others in existence.
Mr. Chappell, Comcast was exactly the one I was thinking of, and they have a kind of a, how should I put it, overwhelming presence for cable TV and other kinds of communications in the village. So that concerns me about introducing another like that. And I just want to make sure that we don't end up with someone who overwhelms the other franchises.
Mayor and Mr. Trustee Radnovich, the difference between Comcast and Easy Fiber is that Comcast also produces a product and sells services.
True.
This is just internet access is what this is, and the providers have to contract to use that for providing services. So it's not like a cable TV. They can't do a cable TV like Comcast does. That's outside of their certificate.
Any other questions?
All right.
Councilor,
So, so I understand the process, I can hold my questions, but the question that I have might be best directed to our attorney, Bill Chappell. Should I ask now or wait?
please do. Go ahead, Councilor. Go ahead.
Okay, so I understand that that the service being provided is the fiber optic cable and connection to the internet, right? Not products going through the fiber, which is something that Comcast does plus more, right? So they will be in competition with the Comcast coaxial cable. Is that fair to say?
Mayor and Trustee Benavides, I would like them to respond because the products is something they understand better than me, except I do know, and I was not involved in the Comcast one, is that Comcast also provides services along with their subscription. This one, a subscription will be access to the internet for whatever services you subscribe to yourself.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe it was Xfinity that provided the services and the Comcast was just the cable. But I haven't really studied this. So let me ask you a question that probably is best directed to you. And I'll let the Easy Fiber folks address the other part. Okay, so in my mind, this is providing internet services, which is in competition with Comcast, and I think that's a good thing. I'm happy about that. So I'm thinking we have a franchise agreement with Comcast, and I don't know what that rate is that we pay for Comcast, but that will be going down if this is in competition with Comcast. And so however we collect with this franchise fee, I'm wondering if it is more than made up for, or at least made up for, with this new service. I mean, maybe you can talk about what percentage we charge Comcast and what percentage we will charge Easy Fiber.
Mayor and Trustee Benavides, I think that's a good question for them.
Them as well.
I think the reason is I don't think the question can be answered because after they get their fiber optics, cables in or their fiber in, they don't have a good, they don't have any way of determining what the actual use of that will be. So they don't know how many users they will have, and that will depend upon a number of factors, including cost and that kind of thing. But Comcast does not have an exclusive franchise, and like I say, their services are much different, but I'd like them to respond to that.
Thank you, Mr. Chappell. Let me just make one other comment. Keep in mind, this franchise agreement is not about the service to the home. It's about the use of the public right-of-way to have their facilities in the public right-of-way. And it's really more of a rental agreement between the village and the company to use the right-of-way, and the franchise fee is based on the gross receipts or the gross revenues, which means the number of people that sign up on to use their service. It's 5% for, as it's explained on page 7. In particularly, the state law prohibits municipalities from excluding any of these telecommunication companies in their communities, if you will. So the idea of competition is what's really the essence here, is giving each one of us that live in the community the option of choosing. And the more you have in, if you will, that provide the service, then obviously the choice is for the consumers. The real issue here is to ensure that we are being fair and treating each one of the providers equally, if you will, in terms of the fees being charged. And then we leave it up to the customer, each one of us, to decide which services we want to, or what carrier we want to use for our services. So just by way of background, simply because I think the real challenge for us as a municipality is more so the issue associated with how the actual fiber will be laid in the ground. Is it being trenched, i.e. then cutting through roads to get to, if you will, to the front door of customers, or what modality they'll be using it. And in this case, John or Bill, if you can maybe just add a little bit of information as to how the company will be installing the fiber.
Mayor and the trustees, the Easy Fiber people have a whole presentation as to how it will be done, how much we'll try to do aerial, how much is underground, all of that kind of thing. So their plan is one which we don't really have all the details, but they do.
Well, maybe we should go ahead.
I have one more question before they do, because I want to ask them to talk about this. I've read some horror stories about companies like theirs fighting over space in right-of-ways and competing and racing to try to get their lines in. And so I have a real concern about roads being dug up and right-of-ways being disturbed, especially if, say, another franchisee comes in a month or two from now and tries to do the same thing. So I'd like you to address, and I believe Easy Fiber is one of the people that I read the story about. I'd like you to address those kind of issues that you faced in Texas in your presentation, if you would. So thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Why don't we have our folks from Easy Fiber come up and make a presentation?
If you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. All right. My name is Garner Duncan. I live at 3015 Kismet Lane in Houston, Texas, 77043. If you'd like, I've got the presentation here. I only printed off 4 copies today instead of 5, but hopefully you guys can share. And I also have my business card here that I can walk through as well.
Thank you, sir. We can share, I guess. Oops. Sorry, here's the cards.
You're good.
It's about a 30-page PowerPoint presentation that I didn't want to take up too terribly much of your time today, so I didn't want to go through slide by slide. I really wanted to just use it for reference and talking points. I want to use the forum as you guys asking questions as you scroll through the pages, but I'll start with who Easy Fiber is and what we've accomplished and what we're doing and where we're going. Essentially, the genesis of Easy Fiber was July of 2021. We purchased a fiber optic network in Texas, in Houston, Texas specifically, that was a government and education focused fiber network. It's mainly served schools, cities, and counties within the greater Houston area. Had 5 ISDs, so school districts, had 3 cities, 2 counties, 2 community colleges, 2 hospital systems, and 1 major university in Houston. So that was in July of 2021. It was a family-owned company. We purchased it back in July of 21, as mentioned. And since then, we've taken the company and monetized it. We are private equity owned, with a number of us being equity holders, such as myself, my colleague Carlos, who's our SVP and general manager here in the Southwest region. He lives over in Albuquerque. Our office is just 7 minutes away. I don't know the exact address, off of Academy Drive Northeast, so just around the corner. What we've done in Houston is we've taken that network, added about 2,000 additional route miles to that. We've actually added 4 new school districts as customers, 3 new cities, 2 more universities, and about 1,000 additional businesses, i.e. enterprises, to that network. Since then, we've actually started construction in Albuquerque as well as in Rio Rancho. We've got about 8,500 home passings in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, and we've got about 75,000 currently in design between the 2 cities itself. Our goal is also, well, I say our goal, we're also in the permitting process in Santa Fe as well. And I think shovels will be in ground in Santa Fe within probably 3 months. We're waiting on archaeology permits there. That's our last hurdle there. Additionally, if you've Googled us, you've seen a press release that we've committed $400 million of capital to spend in the greater Puget Sound area, so Puget Sound being the Seattle-Tacoma area. And if you wait about 6 weeks, we're going to have a 4th market, and wait about another 12 weeks, we'll have a 5th market announced as well. So our target is actually cities and municipalities, areas of land that are fiber poor, where there's the incumbent provider, i.e. CenturyLink here, and then just a cable provider. And what you find is if it's a fiber poor area, you're going to have underserved internet customers, i.e. I would challenge anyone that if they have Comcast here, you might get 1,000 megabytes download and 35 megabytes upload. But if you get 1,000 megabytes, something's wrong, because you're actually getting probably about 100. In today's world with Zoom, kids on their gaming systems, iPads, telehealth, telelearning, all the above. Bandwidth constraints have really put in a toll, taken a burden on everyone. Fiber optics, what we're installing, is not only a synchronous connection of minimum of 1 gigabyte, which is more than sufficient than what you can do today, but your grandkids, my grandkids, will outlive this fiber that we're putting in the ground. And we're putting in the ground that's not only going to be able to serve the needs of today, but what we don't know for tomorrow. I can tell you right now, recently had a meeting with the NFL, so the National Football League, to talk about putting virtual reality headsets in homes to where they can say, I want to sit in section 100 on the sideline and watch a game, and it be as if they're in the sideline. Now, the reason why they have not done that is because they're worried about ticket sales. They're worried about beer and hot dog sales in stadium. So that hasn't yet crossed, hadn't figured out a solve for that yet. But rest assured, 5, 8, 10 years from now, we'll be watching the Dallas Cowboys or whoever you cheer for, or the Packers, one of the two. You'll watch your favorite NFL team at home, from the luxury of your own couch, as if you were there. Now, our goal for the greater Albuquerque area is to have a ubiquitous network from Bernalillo County on the very far east side to the very far east side, far west side of Rio Rancho, as well as to have that fiber go from here all the way to Santa Fe as well. In addition, we're also looking at other cities in New Mexico. I will be in New Mexico again week after next, meeting with 2 additional cities that are less size than Albuquerque, the greater Albuquerque area. So our initial tranche, our initial investment into New Mexico was $350 million that we announced back in, I guess that was late 2023. We are a 100% fiber optic network. We don't build fiber to a node and then we put Comcast. If I put cable in the ground, it is 100% fiber end to end. So the speeds that you get will be 1 gig by 1 gig or greater. This will be for residents, businesses. We'll be able to sell cell phone towers, city-owned facilities. We can certainly talk about in-kind services to the city because we also do that as well. But it's really a soup to nuts communications platform. We do not do cable television. We do not do phone at this time. You can utilize the internet service as a over the top, so you can get a phone service, a voice over IP phone service today that you can get. That's essentially what you have if you have Comcast. It's a voice over IP. Alternatively, with Netflix, you can stream your Netflix, you can stream your Amazon, you can stream your Paramount Plus to watch 1923, whatever you want to watch. You can stream anything. What have I missed? Our goal is to bring fiber to Los Ranchos. We have a build plan that's, I believe it's 3 phases, kind of a north, central, and south phase, where the construction we're designing it 2 ways. We're designing it aerial to put it on the poles. If you've noticed, your pole lines are very clean. But if I'm not mistaken, I think John and I talked, you guys may have a blue sky law that if you've done that, some cities are initiating that where you're putting less cable on the poles and pushing it more in the ground. We're designing it both ways in case we are able to do a rapid deployment via the poles. However, our constraint there is P&M. We can only permit 600 poles with P&M. 600 poles is about 250 households. So our speed of deployment is very slow with P&M right now. That's not unique. That's a rule that they have across the entire state. We'd love to see that change, but right now it's not going to change. So we're designing it to go underground as well. We do not do trenching. We do not do micro trenching. So what we do is actually directional bore. So we work with the locating company to locate the water lines, sewer lines, power lines, any other utilities that are in the easement itself. We locate those, we mark them on the ground, and we avoid them with the directional drill. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that we do not hit other utility lines. They are there, but we try to use additional technology, such as ground penetrating radar, to where we can identify sewer lines, water lines that are beneath the ground, that may not be located or located incorrectly. So, all that being said, it is construction. There are hiccups in construction. We try to mitigate that. Us as a company, since that is our construction, we try and divert all the questions away from you guys and onto us. So if there are customer complaints, we want to handle those ourselves. We have a tracking system and we have a promise. It's not only in this packet, but it's also on our website that we will resolve all customer complaints within 14 days. That is something that we tout. In one of the pages there, we've got our Google rating right now. Out of roughly 9,600 Google reviews, we're at 4.9 stars. And I would challenge anybody to have 9,568 reviews, I believe is what it was as of 3 days ago, to have 4.9 stars. Especially for a communications company, much less someone that's offering internet, 4.9 stars is almost unheard of. So, we've got a great track record. Sure, there are stuff that you can Google where we hit a water line or a sewer line, and there's all that. I mean, there's going to be negative out there, but there's also going to be a lot of positive that's not seen, but that will reflect in the Google ratings as well. You do have my card. As I said, I am an equity holder in the company, so you have my cell phone. If there are problems, if there are issues, I gave you my cell phone for a reason, so 24/7, 365. That's also what our knock line is as well. Here, once we get to a certain capacity, and Carlos may know this better than I do, but once we get a certain number of customer threshold, we'll actually bring part of our call center, which is currently located in Houston. We'll actually staff a call center here to where if you have problems here, that you're actually talking to locals and you're talking to neighbors instead of someone talking to a foreign country like Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. You could locate that call center right here in the heart of Bernalillo County in Los Ranchos. We'd love to have another company in our town. But let me just ask a question, then I'll turn it over to the trustees. Do you have a map in terms of where these lines will be, if you will, located as of yet, or is that still something?
I don't know the page number, but
Is it on the page in here? I didn't.
It is a very high level map, and I can provide you with
small map.
I can provide you with a KMZ of that, which is the Google Earth map, so you can see it. It's got a little bit more detail than just me taking a very high level screenshot of it.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much. Any questions from the trustees? Trustee Benavides.
Yeah, so I just want to, out of my own curiosity, how this, and I know we're just talking about advertising, but this is a somewhat technical question. So how do you come into the home? So, I mean, currently we have coaxial cable, and it connects right up to a modem.
Yep.
That I picked up at Best Buy, and it's compatible with Xfinity and, the whole bit. Does everybody have to get a new modem for fiber optic?
Short answer is yes.
Okay.
The better answer is that yes, but we provide that modem for you. And that's included in the monthly subscription.
Oh, that's right. There's not a separate fee for that.
That's correct.
Okay. And then you can have a router for Wi-Fi, I assume.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Our equipment actually provides Wi-Fi. And if you talk nicely to Carlos back there, if you have a large enough house, we can put a repeater in your house for free.
Good to know. Thanks. That's all.
Okay.
So as you talk about construction, so what we do, and I'll take that a step further. So we go within the right of way on one side of the street. Actually, how we design is on both sides of the street. In every other home, we put what we call a flower pot, and it's subgrade, so it's actually going to be at ground level and below. And it's 11-inch pot, 11-inch fiberglass pot where we actually put the splice enclosure, and that'll go serve 2 homes. And then from there, so the directional drill comes here, and then from there, once someone signs up in this home, or perhaps this one or both, better yet both, we'll actually hand trench all the way to the home, and then actually take it into the home and put it into the home itself. So we handle all that construction from outside in the right-of-way all the way into the customer's home.
Oh, good.
That's interesting. Trustee Keefe.
And that cost is $0, by the way.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your presentation and thank you for being here. This is super exciting to me because I probably have everything hooked up I refuse to use Xfinity cable service, so I stream everything. I have probably about 18 cameras around my house to watch my animals, so, yeah, I'm kind of one of those. The only reason I've been fortunate is, and I want to make sure this is what I understand, is I've been fortunate because the previous owners of my house trenched a fiber optic line directly to the house. And every time Comcast would come out, they said, oh my goodness, you're the only one that has an actual fiber optic line coming to your house. That probably cost $30,000, $40,000 at that time to be put in. From what I'm understanding, because a lot of our houses here in the village can be up to 500 feet to 1,200 feet from the public right-of-way, it's gonna be fiber optic from that public right-of-way to the house.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
And that's part of our ROI model that we take into account whenever we go to an area. There's a number of factors that we look at. Obviously, we love the homes that are 45-foot lot lines that are 35 feet off from the right of way. We love that, but we realize that that's not everywhere. Those are kind of the tract homes that we see in the western side of Houston. But we realize that there are going to be greater costs here, but that's just further proofs that our investment in the community, that we're willing to pay X number of dollars per linear foot to build from the right of way to the home.
And we could still use our own modem though, right?
You can.
As long as it's a gigabyte modem?
You can. We prefer to use, well, actually, Carlos, is that correct?
You can. We prefer to give you a model that we support the speeds we're bringing to you, so that we can support from either our Houston location or our Albuquerque location. You can troubleshoot. It depends on which model you're using. When time comes, we'll get your serial number, and we'll determine if that's something you can use or if you would have to be bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that was also one of the problems with previous, was you're kind of stuck using theirs, and then theirs just was insufficient. So as soon as I changed their product, and went with my own, I was able to put up a whole nesting system and was okay.
So truth be told, it's kind of an arms race amongst those fiber to the home providers of staying current with our technology. Our routers are changed out roughly every 2.5 to 3.5 years based upon the new Wi-Fi standards. So right now, our Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 7, and that's the speed of how you can connect to Wi-Fi and realize the speeds. Those will be out in probably 36 months, in which case we'll have to do a technology refresh, and our customers will be the benefit of that.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Trustee Radnovich?
I have quite a few questions. I'm all for free enterprise, so it's, as far as that's concerned, it's great. I do have some questions about what it does to our village. And so, for instance, how long, I'm a landscape architect, so I know about boring under streets and that kind of thing. How far can you go with your boring machine to bore so that it doesn't impact a street for any length? What is that length?
Ideally, it's 500 feet. We can go as far as between 1,400 and 1,600 feet.
With one bore?
With one bore.
How does that technology work? Can you tell me? I mean,
yeah, it's pretty unique. So it's got a big, huge. You'll see them. Some of them are small. Some of them are as big as small school buses. And essentially, what it is it's a drilling rig that's turned on its side. So they actually use pipe. They have a drill bit at the end. So they call it a missile because it's not really a drill bit. It's actually looks like just a missile. And they screw on the pipe and they push it in. And then it goes in and they screw on pipe and they push it further in.
So just like the oil patch.
Just like the oil patch. And what they'll do is they'll pull conduit on the inside and it'll come out a hole. But what they can do is they can angle it so that they actually have a joystick, and the drivers, I don't know the technical name for it, the drillers, if you will, have a joystick, and they can see what pitch they're going, if they're going left to right.
So it's like a underground LiDAR or something like that?
Kinda. It's almost like a video game. They're playing a video game. And so if they need to be at 5 feet here because there's a sewer crossing, then they can angle it down and go down 5 feet. They need to come back up because they need to come up to a street to put in a handhold for a splice box, then come up at a certain angle as well.
Got it. Okay. That's really good to know. How big are the actual lines? How big are is the actual conduit?
We put in a 2.5-inch conduit,
Wow.
so about yay big.
And you hand dig from your line to the house as opposed to boring it?
That's correct. And we normally go between 8 and 12 inches, depending on the soil terrain.
So so as an example, there are parts of Los Ranchos that have underground dry utilities. And there are parts of Los Ranchos that have above ground dry utilities. If you were above ground, as an example, 4th Street is above ground, which is our commerce zone.
Okay.
You would be putting that cable above ground, I would like to know, or would you be trying to bore? It's really tight on 4th Street, so that's why I want to know. And if the cable is that big, this big cable is going to be put on the pole.
On the pole itself, we're just putting the actual cable itself, and it's about as big as our pinky.
So only the conduit underground is 2.
That's correct.
The cable above is like a coaxial cable size.
That's correct.
Okay. And on 4th Street, do you know yet whether you'll be boring or above ground, or how you'll be
I don't.
moving
That's
through the village?
Yeah, that's for the engineering guys, the ones that are much smarter than I am.
Maybe not.
They are. They're much smarter than I am.
You want to weigh in on that, Gil?
I'm an engineer, and he likes to poke fun at me, so.
I was a civil engineering major at Texas A&M for 1 semester, and then I was humbled and became political science, hence why I'm in government affairs. So.
Smart call. We won't ask about politics tonight.
Go ahead, George.
The other question I have is, suppose another cable company came in, and I talked about how I read a kind of a horror story about, I think it was in Houston actually, about 3 cable companies, 3 fiber optic companies trying to go in the same place at the same time. I'm assuming your competition has similar kinds of equipment. They do the same thing. The way that other lines in the past have been, I don't know what the word is, installed, it sometimes allows other companies to use other companies' lines. Would say I were one of your subscribers, and you put in a fiber optic cable to my house, and 2 years from now someone else came in and offered something, instead of 3 months free, it was 6 months free, and I said, all right, I'll take yours. They would have to install another cable to my house for their system. They wouldn't be allowed to use yours, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
What you're referring to is an open access model.
Yes.
Which is, they did a good job of that over in Europe. That really hasn't taken a hold in America. There's been some companies out there that have tried. They're not being as successful as others. And so it's just a model that we don't have, and that's not our model, and that's not, frankly, that's not most models in America.
I get that. Yeah. I have this image of, 3 companies being allowed into the Los Ranchos market, Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, wherever, and all these lines coming down the street to work on, to give me, different varying models, I'll say. And it's concerning to me.
It's something that's not unique. I mean, we're seeing in downtown Houston, for example, there's probably 15 different providers in the right of way, And what Houston does and what most permitting authorities do is they, obviously, the first handful get the best location within the right-of-way, kind of the top right, where it's easier to drill. And as you come in and you're the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th competitor, you go lower in the right-of-way. So you may have to drill it at 6 feet or 7 feet or 8 feet. But that's the cost of doing business.
So say you were going to go across, and I'm worried about more than anything that part of it, not the business part of it. I leave that to you. It's great. You know, I'm business oriented. Suppose you were going across 4th Street, and we're just about to do some projects in 4th Street. We have done another. What kind of disruption to concrete, asphalt, bricks, water lines, whatever, infrastructure of all sorts, could we expect on a street that's has a very tight right-of-way, 60 to 70 feet right-of-way in one place? I know that may be an unfair, but I really want to know what our village is going to look like when you guys come in and do your thing, if we allow it.
If we're underground on something, on a very tight street, we have to make it, when we complete make ready, it has to be as good or better than what it was before. So if it's got the same, if it's in a sidewalk, we're going to use vehicular and walkway approved handholds, so it can withstand an actual car driving on it. If we have to put something in
Sleeving,
brick,
that would be structurally sound.
So, and then if we have to remove brick, then we're going to put something below. We actually are going to put the brick back where it was. So whenever we do restoration, it has to look how it was before. Now, there may be a splice enclosure that's at grade, that's enclosed in a sidewalk, but we restore it back to how it was before. And that's our commitment to the residents as well. If we disturb grass, or if we break a sprinkler head or something like that, we're going to put it back and make sure it's back to normal for them.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, we become a member of the community once we come here, so we don't want to be a bad steward. So if we leave a bad taste in your mouth, then that cascades down to residents, and it becomes not good for us, I guess, is the most scientific way.
It's not about your company at all. It's, for me, it's...
Absolutely.
It's about disruption.
But also in our communication here, but also to our residents and making sure that we restore everything, the more we communicate and the more we take care of those issues and get ahead of the issues, that's good advertising for us. Just letting you behind the kimono here. The better we can communicate and the better we can stay ahead of that and restore people and actually have some, sure, they hit a sprinkler head, but they fixed it, and they fixed it within 2 days. That word gets around, and that becomes a good advertising tool for us.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Trustee Ratnovich. You have just now gone through our resident engineer's perspective here, even though he claims he's a landscape architect. Now I'll go over here to
Yeah, I just have a couple, excuse me. So again, you mentioned earlier about a customer threshold. Does that threshold have to be met before you start construction? Or you start construction and then you build the customer base?
It's a build and they will come model.
Build and they will come?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So then how then do we, what the comment that I heard earlier is that we have a month. If we advertise now, and then we have, and then in April, we're going to approve this franchise agreement. What happens between now and April? And maybe we can get a comment from Mr. Chappell.
Mayor and Trustee Reinau, before the franchise agreement becomes final, there is no authority to start construction install any fiber or anything of that nature. In other words, so the start of construction is, in this document, subject to final approval of this franchise agreement.
So then the follow-up question then is, how then do we get any kind of feedback from the public about this as well?
Well, this is obviously an advertisement to bring up the ordinance, or the resolution, the ordinance as that's done. So residents will have the same notice they have about this to any other zoning ordinance or anything else. And at the next meeting, they're going to show up and voice their concerns and whatever. And then the board will vote on it. And then they will have another 30 days. If they want to take formal action to stop it, they still have 30 days to do the protest before it becomes final and they can start their construction.
Okay. A couple of other questions here. What about now the determination of what the cost is going to be? Because there was a section in the franchise agreement that referred to market price determination. So is that then differentiated between, let's say, Albuquerque, Rio Rancho, and potentially Los Ranchos? How's that determined?
It's a good question. I wasn't part of our original pricing discussion, but the pricing that we have, I believe I put a matrix there. That's the same price that we have in Texas. That's the same price that we have in New Mexico. And that's the same price that we're proposing to have in Washington as well. We price it, I do know that we look at the nationwide pricing for 1 gigabyte pricing. We're not gonna be the cheapest. We're not gonna have promotional rates because we don't wanna play the game of, we'll give you a promotional rate for a year and then, like right now, I just got my AT&T bill from we did not build my neighborhood in Houston, and I'm kind of mad about it now, but I've got AT&T fiber at my house and I love the fiber, but I just got I've been on it for a year and it went from $35 a month to $85 a month. And so now I have to call and I have to go back in and sign a contract. One of our core values is that we're not gimmicky. So the price you see, you're gonna have for the price for life is what we say. So if you sign up for 1 gig for $69, if you sign up now and we install you tomorrow, 10 years from now, you're still gonna have that price. So it doesn't matter if, eggs go up to $45 a dozen and milk is $100 a gallon, your internet will still be cheaper than what you pay for that gallon of milk. Secondly, there are no contracts. So we're not gonna say you have to be with us for 5 years. You could have us for a month and say, I'm moving and unfortunately I have to cancel your service. We're not going to charge an early termination fee or charge you back for construction. That's one of the risks that we take whenever we enter a new city.
You did mention though in the franchise agreement that there are three appraisals that need to be done in terms of setting price.
Maybe
it was part of the franchise agreement.
Maybe a question for Bill. I'm not familiar with that phrase.
We've got a copy here, and of course, that's directly out of the pricing in the Rio Rancho ordinance.
Okay.
And so I don't know how you can conduct those or what your process is for those, but it is incorporated in this agreement.
Okay. I'll have to get back with you on that question. I'm not entirely sure. I think that was a Rio Rancho, and I think we gave them the pricing, and I think that was set. I think the spirit of that is that we don't come in and say that there's a set price for a while, then it changes at a certain period. I could be wrong, but let me get back to you on that. I don't know the answer right now, but in the spirit of it, I think that's what it was. So there's not a aha, gotcha type moment.
Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. With that, any additional thoughts, Mr. Chappell?
Mayor and and trustees, the appraisal function comes about when there is a situation in which the village has a right to buy the fiber optic system. In other words, if they're going to sell or do something, there is an option on the part of the village to buy that, okay? And part of the way you determine the market price, if the village wants to acquire that fiber optic system, is through that 3 appraisal basis. That doesn't have anything to do with rates that you charge customers or anything like that. You're over in Exhibit B of the determination of fair market price. And that is if the village decides to buy it because they default and you're going to terminate it, or if there's a reason that you have an option to buy it under the franchise agreement. So that would come about only in that case.
Thank you, Michelle, for clarifying that. I was going to say that in Exhibit B talks about that, and that's in lieu of the company opting to sell the infrastructure, which would obviously be part of if they opted to do that for some reason or other down the road. But let me go back and ask just one specific question. I've been involved with many franchises in Albuquerque prior to coming to the village. In many of the areas in Albuquerque, we did have some opportunity to negotiate a pricing, if you will, structure for low-income residents in certain areas of the city. In spite of what a lot of folks might think, not all the properties look like the ones on Rio Grande Boulevard. We have some areas of our community where we have some folks who are not as wealthy as others. And I'd like for you to think about that as between now and our agreement or review at the end of April.
We've got an existing program for that.
Right. If there are some ways we can offer some better rates for low-income areas of the community. And the last I would say is, again, for us as a municipality, is looking towards getting infrastructure into some of our facilities, such as our agri-center or other areas where we have operations, so that we could have that infrastructure available for the use of the municipality. And I'm sure John would visit with you about that opportunity for us. I'd like to hear a little more about that for sure.
Absolutely. We'd love to partner with you guys.
Okay, great. Well, with that being said, if we need a motion to authorize the publication of the ordinance, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to advertise ordinance number 301.
It's been, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Right, has it been moved in second? Do we need to have a roll call for that?
Mayor, no.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you so much. Appreciate you for being here, and we'll look forward to the continuing discussions.
Mayor, I thought we might have discussion without Mr. Duncan first. I know it's maybe too late now. I was going to bring that up, though.
I think we passed the vote, but we do have an opportunity, if nothing else, unless Mr. Chappell gives us any different direction.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, trustees.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't actually vote. I purposely didn't, because I thought we were going to have discussion.
Yeah, typically under Robert's Rules of Order, you have a motion and then you have a discussion among the trustees and then you vote. So you kind of skip that discussion topic. And I think with the consent of those who voted already, I think you can still go back and do it.
Yeah. Should we have a motion to reconsider the motion and to go back to formal proceedings, or shall we just have it informally?
I think you could do it informally if everybody approves. If not, then you have a vote on it.
Okay.
I'm really not opposed to allowing this to be advertised. What I want to talk about, though, is I think we need rules for how they do it, how they actually make these installations. Because when I heard that they might have 3 or 4 or 5 or more in one space and they're going 8 feet down, that's a little scary to me. if there are other competitors that come in. There's going to be a lot of wire underground. So I think we ought to have rules about where it's placed and how it's handled during construction. And that's what I wanted to bring up.
Okay. Any other comments?
I think I could see Mr. Duncan back there wanting to respond to you. I don't know, is it too late?
If you want to have Mr. Duncan come up and say a few words, I'm not opposed to that. Mr. Duncan.
Trustee Radnovich, so during that process of construction, so there's going to be, once the franchise is completed, what we're going to do is actually start the design process. So we actually have an outside engineering firm that does, there's two actually designs. There's actually a high-level design that does the initial design, and then from there it gets actually very street-specific, and it gets down to GPS coordinate specific. From there, we're actually going to seek permits on right-of-way approval. So from there, we'll actually work with permitting department, work with the team on that. And if there's conflicts with water, conflicts with sewer, conflicts with gas, any other underground utility, then we are actually design and engineering team will actually work through that process. Going back to the competition, it's very unlikely that you'll actually see two fiber to the home providers enter into a geographic area together. The reason for that is you're throwing good money at a bad problem. So for example, in Albuquerque right now, there's another fiber provider. In some areas, we're literally across the street. And that's just, we don't want to overbuild them because it becomes harder for us to sell once someone becomes, as we say, fiberized. If it's fiber, it's fiber. I mean, what's the difference? I mean, it may be a promotional rate, but we get beyond the games of that. So as the phrase goes, there's kind of an honor among thieves. We don't want to overbuild them, and really they don't want to overbuild us. Now, commercially, as Bill mentioned, there's Zayo. There's lots of national long-haul fiber routes that will overbuild, but their only competition is just other providers such as themselves to build to schools or do a county-wide project or a city-wide project for the state. So fiber to the home, which is our core business, we really will abut each other, but not overlap each other. So I hope that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other concerns? If not, we'll.
I do have one other issue.
All right, Trustee Renat.
And that is that I did look at Article 3, 3.3.3 in our ordinance. And basically that's the for any kind of franchise agreements. What it is, it's a list of agreements, but there's nothing in the ordinance that helps us to determine that identifies any kind of a policy or any kind of procedure that we should follow in the way that we go about making the decisions regarding these agreements. So what I'd suggest is that that's something that we put back to staff to take a look at in order for us to be able to come up with it could be a template that we could then review in order to understand, in order to come up with policy and procedure on how we go about doing it.
Okay, any other thoughts? If not, John, let's look and see what that policy looks like. I think it'd be helpful, Mr. Chappelle, if you might at least at some point give us a perspective of the state law as it relates to franchise agreements and the FCC requirements that I think also play into that decision. I know that in the city of Albuquerque, for example, we spent a tremendous amount of taxpayer money to develop the standards, and whether we do micro trenching or not, it's a very different structure. But you're dealing with so many providers in that corridor, et cetera, but there are standards that we can look at, and John, if you might look at the city of Albuquerque standards, and others might give us a little bit more information. I think the one thing that's really important to recognize, and I think as our speaker just said, as Mr. Duncan just said, it's highly unlikely you're gonna have that kind of a competition in the village, given that typically what happens with these providers, and they may nod their head, they may not, but usually the first ones in capture most of the market. And others move to other areas where the market hasn't been, if you will, tapped. That doesn't mean that they don't come back, but sometimes in instances where there is opportunities, sometimes you do see these providers, you know, buy each other out, if you will, and consolidate the territory as well. All of that is really the market, obviously, but Bill, maybe you and Mr. Avila can get together and see what Albuquerque has in place that we might use as a template to start the discussion.
I'll be glad to do that, and I in fact looked at the Albuquerque system before, and it's rather complex, and that's the reason I did that, because we have state statutes as to what you have to do to approve a franchise. We follow that. You have the New Mexico Telecommunications Act that talks about what you can do and what you can't, and who you can reject. The FCC has some rules that allow this kind of product, and that these companies are falling in between, because at one time, when a company like this came in, a big company like Comcast could come in and buy up all of their bandwidth, and so you would only get Comcast. Now then, these providers can elect who they contract with and who they don't contract with, which gives you better options out there. And so I have to tell you, I'm not an expert and it's pretty complicated, but I'll put together what I can.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you, trustee, thanks. Let me just say, John and Danielle, if we could ensure that we try and get as much of the information out to the community in the next 30 days before the next meeting, so that if other folks in the community have some concerns, they are able to attend the meeting. That would be helpful.
Mayor, we still need to vote.
Now we have a motion. I thought we already voted on the.
I didn't get the opportunity to vote after hearing all of this.
Okay, would you like to reconsider the vote?
Sure.
All right, let's reconsider the vote. We'll need a reconsideration from one of the trustees.
Oh, a motion for reconsideration?
I have a motion for reconsideration. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of reconsideration signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It's passed 3-1. We're back on the motion. Any other discussion on the motion? Having here seen no other discussion on the motion, all those in favor of passing the resolution to advertise this ordinance signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We're done. Okay, good. Okay, now we'll move to item number 8, the Chief Financial Officer's report, and I suspect that Tammy is on the line.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Before you is the cash report for the month of February 28th, 2025. We have an ending cash balance of $13,955,956.80, which is an increase of $720,039.79 for the month. And this brings us to a year-to-date excess of revenue over expenditures of $1,527,609.12. And there are 5 unusual or significant items that have been noted for the month.
This is what happens when you have a new mayor. Revenues just go up quickly. How about a little levity for the moment? All right, any questions?
So the costs go up too?
Good job. We'll see about that.
Good job, yeah.
Any questions for Tammy?
I have none.
No questions? All right. Thank you, Tammy. You have anything else to add?
I'm sorry, Mayor, what was that?
You have anything else to add to the report?
I do not have anything to add to this report. The one thing that was noted from last month was we did receive our Small Cities Assistance Grant. And so aside from one more large payment of property taxes for the month. We don't have anything outstanding, any type of large revenue that we would expect that would be significant.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move on now to Mr. Avila. Reports.
Excuse me, Board of Trustees. So you'll see that we have made some expenditures at the open space. And these are to mitigate the buildings that are there, to an expense that hasn't hit yet, but to connect to sewer and just get those buildings at that site, stabilized and ready for next steps. Potential meeting items, again, we talked about ordinances, having those changes, and then in resolution, we addressed one today, so we'll be working on those to bring before the board. We'll have to go through P&Z with some of these, and that'll be in the next meetings with P&Z, not this next month, but following that. Let's see, on one of the projects here, we have expenses that were used for the Old Village Hall, and this was out of grant funding. So our estimation is that we can spend about $200,000 of that, or complete spending of that, and make sure that that site is stabilized and usable for the community, and address other open space needs at Paseo del Norte, or the Del Norte open space, with the remainder of those funds. So that's the report that we've turned in recently. A greenhouse gas diversion, I labeled it that. That is where we started our project for green waste. That's the chipping yard. We've opened that again this week with all the high winds. We're concerned for fires and so forth. We'll continue that here through mid-May to allow residents to bring materials there and make it a little easier to clean up and keep things safe. We are working on getting a little more specificity around our ICIP. We'll also know a little bit more of what is awarded to us in the legislature here by the end of the month. So we're working on putting that together for review by the public and the board. APS still don't have the data dump that they promised, and we just continue to reach out to them, and hopefully we'll have something soon. We really don't have much of leverage on getting that. We're just hoping they'll be good neighbors and get us that information as we keep asking for them. We had anticipated getting together a work study for budget here by the end of the month, but we'll have to do that a little later. There's just a lot of activity going on, including bringing Palindrome for Board of Trustee review, and we're looking at the 10th of April for that. And that is a one-item special meeting that we anticipate. With that, we continue to work through it, and you've seen Brennan announce here. He's been carrying the load along with Michelle in planning and zoning. We have interviews scheduled at the beginning of the month for planning and zoning directors, and we'll be doing it at that point. I addressed 4 code enforcement cases here this past week. Most of those were cleared up immediately. One was not substantiated, and the other one's still under investigation. So, we're all sharing in that and trying our best to keep things moving as we as we staff up our departments. Well, one of the things that isn't mentioned here is that we did participate with MRGCD to repair the culvert under Neighbor, which goes into the city of Albuquerque, and the Solar roads. It's a school bus route. So we felt that we needed to address that. It was not really high expenses. It is $7,000 though that we used in getting that road repaired with the culvert. A lot of the work for tracking traffic and seeing where our high risk areas are is done by Fred in public safety. He's identified some spots on Rio Grande and some more traffic enforcement will be happening there. The Agri-Nature Center, they do have some over 5,000 plants started. They do have over 30 people participating in the community gardens. They do have a lot of activities planned for the year. So with those highlights, I'll leave the report, and if you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Avila?
Sure.
Trustee Benavides?
Yeah, so, and you were just going through your report, right? And just covering the highlights. There's a, I read your report, and in there's something about community development facility for the open space. And I feel like I'm a bit in the dark over as to what this is all about, because I don't know what the plan is, and I feel like you know what the plan is, but I don't know what it is. And I think we're talking about rehabilitating the buildings that are there, but I also, I see the words like we need an anchor, and I don't know if that's a new building. And when are we going to share this plan with the residents of the village?
Okay, Trustee Benavides, Board of Trustees, the plan right now is to rehabilitate, and that's what we've been doing. What is available to us is to utilize our funding to build up the open space as to, the different amenities that we might have out there. That's not been determined yet. So part of it is getting some high-level design. That's one of the estimates that we've had here recently. We need to do that. We're also talking about the safety at that location as far as access and what we need to do around that, because it's, without that, you're not going to be able to get the wider community in there. You might be able to walk there, you might be able to bike there, but you won't be able to show up, park real easy and safely at that location. So at this point, that's what we have. The barn or the stalls could lend themselves to, different community attractions, and we haven't explored that fully, but that's one of the things that could happen. The buildings up front, we want to maintain. I understand they have some historical significance and some good bones on some of those buildings.
Okay, so another thing you didn't cover that I thought was noteworthy is a proposed amendment to the village criminal code, right? Related to camping on village property. I think this is to address the concerns that many residents have. So can you comment further on that?
Trustee Benavides, in looking at what tools we're able to provide the SO or the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, they do need to be able to rely on some ordinances to control certain behavior. And taking a lead from Albuquerque and some of the changes that have happened, we think that we can implement similar ordinances to help them do their job and control some of the activity that's been going on our streets.
No, that's good. But I thought it was an important thing to highlight for the public. So maybe this is more of a Maria Rinaldi question, but on 4th Street, I saw some illustrations of wooden fence being put up in place of trees. I thought that was an odd thing to swap one out for the other. I don't know if that's just being proposed, right, and for public comment?
I think Maria may be on and can comment directly.
Oh, hi.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, Administrator, what you have in the packet was an attachment to my monthly report, and it was a report back to the Board of Trustees on the comments that they made on final design of the 4th Street project in the Board of Trustees specific work sessions. So there were 3 of them that were discussed. 2 of them, the recommendation is to move forward with, and the 3rd one was the proposal to look at the installation of a split rail fence along Phase 2A. So that was investigated, and the results of that investigation are there. And based on cost and based on impact of design, the necessity to remove much of the plantings and to create more of a urban curb to protect the fence, because it would be in the clear zone, the recommendation is that that not be included in final design.
Okay, good, yeah. Since I have you on, this other point that I think would be best for you to address. So I know we've been seeing some, I think we call it monument signage for the village, right? And it's just interesting to me that we try so hard to say we're not Albuquerque, right? But we always are, I guess our official name is Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque, right? You know, and it's such a long name anyway. I wish we would talk about this and reconsider just calling us Los Ranchos, right? And make writing my return address on the envelopes a lot easier.
Well, that's true. I think that process is, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, because we had this very conversation, Maria and I did just earlier today, as it relates to the monument, if you will, and the signage. And Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, the signage itself went through a public process, and those were the recommendations, is that correct?
Mayor, Trustee Benavides, trustees, it went through a lengthy survey process. There were exhibits, there was an open house, there was a survey online, and the column was the monument structure chosen. So the signs that are exemplified in the construction drawing, those are samples, what the final ones could look like based on location. In this particular location, if you need clearance with P&M infrastructure or actual roadway clearance and such, what is the most appropriate sign to go on the monument structure itself? Now, Mayor, the signage, this was a 4th Street project entry designation of the Phase 1 and actually along the corridor of 4th Street. That's what this project was. It grew into a potential for signage throughout the community. That was a little too much for everybody to wrap their arms around. So it was decided that we would stick with the 4th Street signs first, see how that goes, see how the community reacts like that, and then potentially revisit this or iterations that were also proposed for other locations within the village. This is simply for the 4th Street corridor at this point in time and paid for with 4th Street money.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah.
That's all I have.
All right, great, thanks, Maria. Any other questions? Trustee Ratnovich.
I have one for you, Maria, since you're on. I thought, and I could be wrong, but I thought that the village residents liked the Pueblo Revival style as opposed to the territorial style. Granted, I see that the column makes sense, but this territorial style that is the final design, I don't think that actually is the correct style. for the sign based on what I saw and read. So I'm curious about why we went with the territorial style.
Trustee Radnovich, thank you for the question. That this is based on the results of the survey and the comments received at the open house. I'm happy to provide that information. This is this is the selected structure. I'll provide that, Trustee Radnovich. I will send you all that information.
I would like to see that because I don't think it really represents, at least the way I look at the village of Los Ranchos. So I may be one of few.
One man's
Sounds like I
opinion.
am.
Thank you, Trustee Radnovich. Trustee Radnovich.
I do have
I'm sorry.
other
Go ahead.
comments
Okay.
that I'm just going to send on to everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, Maria, I just wanted to get clarification then on what the current situation is with the Chavez Road multi-use trail project. I know I walked it along with you and others, okay? So at this point, though, where are we on this? If you can kind of provide just a brief update. Is this going to take place, or is this something that we're putting on the back burner at this point, or what's the status?
Mayor, Trustee Radnovich, Trustee Renoir, trustees, we've put together a counter to our denial from NMDOT, the TAP committee. They came out, they did a field review with us. We proposed some traffic calming and some actual changes to the roadway, speed reductions, and a couple of different things that had to do with multimodal that kind of creeped the scope of a trail in an effort to create pedestrian and bicycle safety within the limits of the right-of-way that we discovered we have out there, without acquiring additional right-of-way. Our requests were denied. So the mayor and I and the administrator have been working with the design team, and we have put together our second argument. We asked for another shot at arguing our points that the intent of the project as applied for was to create a safer multimodal environment out there, particularly for pedestrians. So we are again requesting at a higher level above the TAP committee for a second review of our request. So at the moment, we're fine in time. The funding was for engineering and preliminary design. So there's the money, there's not a problem with trying to get something through because the money's expiring or anything. It is at this point in time to see if we can come to an accommodation with the funder to provide some pedestrian and bicycle safety out there without a full 10-foot trail. And if not, then what are our options as far as what we do with the funds from there? So short answer, we're still in the process of trying to accommodate, trying to change the scope of the project to accommodate things other than a 10-foot trail, but would also improve the safety of the corridor for all users, vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle.
So then whatever further design then is going to be done needs to be done within that $347,000 range that we have, that we've committed to the professional services agreement with parametrics. Is that correct?
Mayor, Trustee Renaud, yes, that gets us through design, that amount. We have additional funding. We have significant amount of additional funding, but that is not an issue. That is in the parameters of the contract with parametrics.
Thank you, Maria.
Certainly.
Any other questions? Trustee Keeper?
Mayor, if you don't mind. Maria, just because we're talking about the Chavez Trail, if we are denied a second time, could we apply, or how would we do something different outside of a trail? Because I don't think a lot of people would be heartbroken if the trail doesn't happen. from the public opinion that we received. But the issue is still traffic calming measures for Chavis Road. Can we then go another route for traffic calming barriers, or, you know, adding in median?
Pointed out or used as examples are some of the things that we had proposed, in fact. If they do deny it, the money is transportation alternative planning path money. It is trail money. Within that funding source, we would not be able to. But what we are hoping to accomplish is a pedestrian walkway, a pedestrian path, paved pedestrian path. And when I say paved, I do not mean asphalt, along with traffic calming that can include additional raised crosswalks, bulb outs, any number of things that have to do with narrowing the corridor, both visually and physically, as well as reduction of speed limit. I'm pretty hopeful that we may be able to still pull this off. And it would end up not as a trail as defined by the 10-foot requirement for multimodal, but it would be more of a pedestrian way with vehicular calming to accommodate safety for bicyclists on the road and the pedestrians on the side.
Okay. And so, again, I'm kind of playing, because it's trail money, and let's say it doesn't work particularly on Chavis Road, can it be moved to another road?
Mayor, Trustee Kiefer, that money is specific to Chavis Road because that was the termini selected based on the inclusion in the ICIP, and it was ranked and it was awarded based on the connectivity to the regional bikeways system and in the master plan of the Village of Los Ranchos for pedestrian amenity. So that money is pretty much tied to Chavis.
Thank you.
Although I guess I would say, Maria and Trustee Kiefer, we're going to try and set up a meeting with the DOT to have that exact conversation. If it is denied again and that money is still available, we'll see if there's a way for maybe use of that money in some other project. But as Maria said, that one was awarded specifically for that particular roadway facility, at least at this point. Yeah. All right. Any other questions of Mr. Avila? If not, we'll move on to trustee reports. So let's start with Trustee Benavides.
Yeah, so our mayor asked me to get involved with the water rights with the Agri-Nature Center / Anderson Fields. I don't know if we call the whole thing Agri-Nature Center now, all 50-some acres, or but every time I talk about it, I get asked a question, do you mean the old Anderson, Agri-Nature, old Anderson Fields or the new ones, you know? But so I'm talking about the entirety of the Agri-Nature Center with the new purchase, okay? And so I've met, I've gone down to the MRGCD, I've gone to the Office of the State Engineer, and just to assess where we stand in regards to our water issues for that big facility that we have. And so it's pretty interesting. I found, well, actually William Carlton and I both found that with the new purchase, there was one segment that we did not pay the tax for with the MRGCD because it was addressed to Patty Anderson. And so I got that changed at the MRGCD, and I hand carried that bill, which was not very much money, to Danielle, and I think she took care of that. So in regards to the new purchase, everything can be watered by the ditch, okay? Now, that doesn't really, there's more to the story about the ditch, and this is through my conversations with Jason Kasuga and Mark Kelly, a meeting that our mayor put together for us. So according to Jason, is that the ditch water may run out sometime in June, unless we get a lot of rain, okay? This is one of the worst seasons ever, and we may discover that this might not be an anomaly. This might be our future. And so we need to rethink how we farm, not just at the Agri-Nature Center, but probably throughout New Mexico. And we need to think about well water, using well water where we were once using surface water out of the ditch. And there are issues with just using solely well water in that it's hard water, and calcium carbonate will form on the surface and slowly make it harder for the plants to get their nutrients that they need. So what to do about that? Well, there are ways to treating the well water before you put it out in the field. But what Jason's talking about, and it was kind of where I was going at the same time, is a hybrid system, because using surface water is really good at helping to flush those hard water deposits that collect on the surface. So if you can get it every now and then, you can clean up your fields, okay? You can push it down into the ground so it goes much lower so it doesn't interfere with the roots. And what you're doing with the well water is you're laying out this dripper tape, and you can grow crops on that. Which is currently being done by Big Jim at the Agri-Nature Center. They just have this flat tape that they just roll out. I go for 100 feet or several hundred feet, I think, with that stuff, and just water it with well water. So in regards to where we stand at the Agri-Nature Center with having sufficient water, I am looking for additional water, senior water rights for the Agri-Nature Center, and identifying that just with people that I know. And maybe I'm making some headway. I don't want to promise anything just yet. But yeah, so we have wells, and we need to establish how much water we can pump out of those wells. And I think we can be in good shape with the Agri-Nature Center. And I know William Carlton is very much concerned about those front acres that you see as you drive on Rio Grande Boulevard, and that they remain green. It would be a bad look for us if they looked like they were fallowed because we can't get ditch water to them. So we're doing everything we can. If we can lease water rights in the short term, that would be helpful until we know where we stand in regards to purchasing additional senior water rights, okay? So let me say one more thing about it, and then I'll finish. Okay, so there's a thing called junior water rights and senior water rights, okay? But in regards to the MRGCD, they don't care. There's either water in the ditch or there's not. There's no priority given. The only people that get priority are the Pueblos, okay? So they're more senior than the senior water rights, okay? So the main advantage, the nice thing about senior water rights is they're a commodity. You can move them. Junior water rights is very difficult to move them, and maybe impossible. But senior rights, you can buy other people's water rights. You can move them to a new location. You can change the point of diversion, so you're not doing, it's no longer surface, but now it's groundwater, and you're pumping out of a well. So I've been learning a lot about this, and I think we can get there. I think we'll be in good shape eventually. That's all I have to say.
Just to build on what Trustee Benavides said, we did a project at Sandia High School We have 2 cisterns on that project. We still are getting close to our 6 to 8 inch yearly water precipitation. But the one on Sandia High School feeds a wetland, and that wetland never runs out of water. It did have supplement the first few years, but it works. We did another project up at the labs that has 6 30,000 gallon cisterns on the building. It's right on Eubank. We did the water budget for that, and that project will be potable water free within 3 years. As a matter of fact, 3 years has already passed us. So there is no potable water used on the landscape for that facility. Cisterns do cost money, but they are, there are green stormwater infrastructure techniques that can be used at the Agri-Nature Center and elsewhere that would help supplement water in a huge way, and could make farming, especially if it's native plants like the Three Sisters, you know, corn, squash, and beans, is part of that makeup. So I think just FYI, or just to look at that with your deliberations, and the state engineer allows it at this point. They've already said that. Harvesting water and green stormwater infrastructure is a very valuable and viable way to produce water for farming.
Yeah, an acre foot of water, let's say you bought an acre foot of senior water rights, that's about something like close to 350,000 gallons. It's a lot of water.
It is.
It's not a lot if you're flooding, you know, because you're likely to put several inches on the ground at once. Yeah, it's probably hard to collect that much water, I think. But I did mention something to Jason that's interesting. I said, I think it would be wonderful if the Conservancy will allow us to store the ditch water and then release it slowly. Now, let's say you got, typically in a season, they'll allow you 3 acre-feet per acre. They won't give you all that to store, but they might give you an acre foot, you know, and then you can, that could be helpful too.
Well, and it can be fed also by harvesting.
Yeah. Very fluid issues, my
Thanks,
friends.
Very fluid.
We'll
I like the
We'll
jokes.
continue to have that conversation down the road. We'll move on to Trustee Kiefer for her report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make this short and simple. I appreciate the public comment that was made. As we start looking at ordinances and zones, I'd like to ask the mayor to consider having staff look at creating a historic district. So that way we stay ahead of any future state legislation, especially if they start in future years or trying to usurp the power of municipalities with our planning and zoning rules, and just kind of looking at that so we can make sure that we protect what we've paid and worked hard to protect.
All right, thank you.
Call the whole village a historic area.
Go ahead, write more. It is now your turn, Trustee Radnovich, it's your turn.
Sorry, I'm talkative today.
Maybe just a very brief follow-up with conversations that I've had with parents who are still very much concerned about APS. They are basically looking for other kinds of options in addition to moving students to Taylor. And talking with a couple of neighbors who have grandkids who are living just about outside the village, that could actually be going to Taylor or maybe could qualify for Taft they're not looking that way, they're looking elsewhere. So looking at charters, they're looking at private schools, which is a real shame because I think we need to be able to support the local schools. I know a number of them are still concerned, and I know members of the board are still concerned about the potential future for Los Ranchos Elementary. That hasn't been on any kind of a cut list yet. But the issue, though, is that their numbers are still pretty low. They've got a little over 200 students. And again, I'm not privy to the discussions that are going on within APS, but that's something I think we need to push with APS to make sure that that school continues to survive. And when, you know, and Trustee Kiefer, when you talk about the history of the village and historic zone, this school is 100 years old, I think. Over 100 years old, and it's something that we just have to ensure stays with us.
Thank you very much. I would say to you, Trustee, that on that score, I did meet with the superintendent 2 weeks ago, and assured me that Los Ranchos or Alvarado were not on a list that they were having considerations into the future. But to your point, we shouldn't just become complacent. We should continue to ensure that both of those schools get our support and make sure that we can encourage as many residents of the village and other areas close to the village to continue to use those schools. They're great schools for sure. All right, Trustee
I do actually have my own stuff too.
You have your own stuff too.
Not
Absolutely.
Much. I'd really like to, now that I've taken on the only major roadway that goes through the village, Paseo del Norte, and the interchange, I'd really like to speak up with the COG committee that looks at that, because I think it's a really important issue. There was just another accident on Paseo just the other day, and sure enough, all of the Ortega and Paseo and El Pueblo, Ranchitos, all filled up. So probably Chavez too. And I think there are ways that we can help that street. One is greater police protection, greater police presence on the street. Another is speed cameras, which I thought we were going to be looking at. John, I remember talking about that maybe 6 months ago, but I think we need to look at that. Official pull-offs that could also be used as a way to get traffic moving a little faster through there. Another thing that has been suggested to me, and I've written all these down because I've asked people about this, is on those flashing boards that are on Paseo, a stay in your own lane for rush hour. Most of what, this is anecdotal on my part, but most of what I think causes the accidents on Paseo are people that are zooming in and out of lanes trying to get ahead. And I know that requires police presence, but if a policeman were stationed, or policewoman were stationed on the pedestrian bridge as an example, you can see a pretty long way down both ways on Paseo. And that could be a presence that could be used. Another resident suggested to me is what he called at the ready accident response during rush hours, so that if or when an accidents happen, there is already officers and ambulances that are stationed there just during rush hour, so that they can get there faster and deal with it in a shorter amount of time. So those, as well as the noise abatement issue, I'd really like to tackle because I think the village is getting shortchanged by the way Paseo is being handled by the authorities that do have control of it, and we need to change that.
Those are all great points, Trustee Ranovich. Let me suggest you and I get together and maybe set up a meeting with the COG to look at the jurisdictional issue as it relates to the road facility itself, and then what is being considered by the DOT to deal with some of the issues like the emergency lanes, et cetera. I know that Fred and I did talk to the sheriff's officers about the cameras, the speed cameras and those sort of things. They're working through that, and so I know Fred's going to be following up with them to get better information. But look, trustees, you know, the conversations about the different work you're doing is just terrific. I'm just going to say that it helps the administration, it helps me. So I do appreciate the water work, the APS work, the transportation work, and Jennifer, in terms of the work that you're doing as it relates to even Main Street. Now that our lobbyists will be back from Santa Fe here very shortly, we will really get in more detail in terms of how we dive into that area, et cetera. I would just say that, you know, they're in the last few days of the legislature, and this is probably the most important part of the time, although it's usually the time you don't get a lot of information, but nonetheless, it's still important for us to stay focused. Hopeful that John and the staff are staying in touch with our lobbyists in Santa Fe to see how things come together. As you all heard at the Municipal League, most of the work that municipalities are doing across the state is mostly defense. Don't take any of our authority, don't preempt our authority. Give us an opportunity to deal with the issues locally and not necessarily at the state level. But it is clear on one area that I would just want to bring to you all's attention, is that there is a very strong commitment, as best we can tell now through all the processes, that there will be significant amount of dollars in Bernalillo County for housing. And I think it's important for just for our information as it relates to projects that might be in and around the village, that we stay focused on that. And in my work that I'm doing on behalf of the Housing Collaborative for this area, I will ensure that I'll let you all know as those projects move forward. If in fact, at the ultimate day of the session ending, that that funding stays where it's been at least proposed to go to at this point. With that, that ends our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion is accepted. We're done at 8:42.
I think this is mine, right?
That's yours, yeah.
I was looking for it.
They're all yours.
Because you weren't here